In the previous video, I was talking about, I was talking about Schopenhauer's animal consciousness and how I think that's if you're gonna talk about the certain aspect of consciousness, that Schopenhauer's is the correct way to characterize it. You know, with the will and the intellect, the will being primary, and there being an underlying basic animal consciousness in every being, or in every being of the animal kingdom. I was talking about, the conference reports channels discuss about how there's no excuse for us as moral agents to eat meat. But I talked about how we have animal consciousness. I talked about Schopenhauer's point of view, which I find to be correct. And I want to add one more thing before applying this to the actual vegan argument. I want to think about, like, I've talked about this before. Where do morals come from? Because he's basically saying that that's morally wrong. That if one's gonna go get if one's gonna go get a bacon sandwich from Wendy's or someplace like that, they cannot call themselves ethically right for doing so. Or if they kill a cow in their pasture, butcher it up and put a bunch of steaks in the freezer and cook one up one night, they cannot call themselves ethically right. They cannot. The good is not being ascribed to them. So he's basically playing the whole entirety of morals here. He's discussing all of morals. Now, I want to think about morals for a second. I've talked about this before. What makes morals? What makes ethics? What makes the discussion? What makes the decision and discussion of what's right and what's wrong? What's good and what's not good. What goodness is. We did. Us humans did. If we were never put here for some reason by some force, because when the first human came here, we have human nature in us, to where I want to be treated a certain way, and you want to be treated a certain way also. And we expect things from each other. We expect to be treated as an equal being. We expect to be treated, as a nice, we expect to be treated kindly because we're human just like you are, or I'm human just like you are, Because we expect things from each other and we expect to act certain ways, and we expect all these things because of our inherent integral human nature. This leads to morals. This leads to ethics, because we have standards of what's right, what's wrong, what's good, and what is goodness. And if we go back to whenever it was, I'm not gonna talk about religion here. If we go back to the very first time that a human was made, the only thing that was there for the primary things that were there for a person to eat was meat. So that person killed animals and ate meat. Now, I'm sure that the very first person could have, chosen to pick plants over meat. But they didn't, because of that's just what was chosen. And, when the first person, what I'm trying to say is that when the first person came about, when the first humans were here, the morals, the fabric of morality was being created. And as this was happening, they were killing animals and eating animals for sustenance because of the will, because of their animal consciousness, regardless of how much noose is there. And I think that because I'm not saying that just because we've always eaten meat that we still should, because that's one thing that the guy on conference report was saying to be wrong. It's a naturalistic fallacy. I think that because we've always done it and we've never, brought it into morality until very recently. I don't see anywhere in morality that would classify that as wrong to eat meat. I see nowhere in morality. The thing I do see that's morally wrong is if we cause suffering in animals, which I think one thing I do have a problem with, and one thing I do think is wrong, is when we cause suffering in animals, because they have a large capacity to suffer just like we do. Because I think that while what lies there with a will and the animal consciousness is a enormous capacity to suffer. And that enormous capacity to suffer is going to mean that if we do anything to hurt them, anything like that, we are morally in the wrong. Which means I think we need to go through everything that we can possibly do to make sure that if we're going to kill and eat an animal, that the death of the animal needs to be painless as possible. And if we are causing any extent of pain whatsoever, that we are, in the wrong. In Conference Report's video, he was talking about would it be he was playing a hypothetical case where he has, would it be correct for us if we got an animal right out of the womb, anesthetized it, and put it in a vat of nutrients, so that it could, be fine until we wanted to eat it. This animal would have no pain, and we would be able to eat it for a long time, and there would be no pain or suffering whatsoever. This still would not be correct, according to him. But so my conclusion on this is that to eat animals is not exactly the best moral question. It's not a great moral question because it's only been very recently that we've questioned that. And we've always found it to be just a regular daily practice. And this line of more of a moral agent is dissolved, I think, because of, I think it can be seen that Schopenhauer's structure of, the will and stuff like that, I think that it can be seen and easily understood how and why that there's very little line there. But I don't know. I find it difficult to argue my position because, for one, it's very difficult to kill an animal without having there being some pain or suffering there. And yet there's a lot of cases where it is easy. And then I think it's a very difficult moral question. But I certainly don't think that it's ethically wrong to eat meat. I just don't think that because of what morality, the fabric of morality being made by us from the very beginning that we were made, from the very beginning of our life here on Earth, we were eating meat, and as we were eating meat, we were creating the fabric of morality, and it was never been a problem. We have never cared about it inherently. But I think that moral questions, the better moral question is, if we're going to eat meat, are they going to die without pain and suffering? I find it a difficult question because about the eating and consuming part of it. It's the whole pain and suffering thing about killing the animal. That's a definite moral question, and I think that it's definitely immoral to cause pain and suffering, needless suffering, stuff like that. But the moral question about eating it after the animal is dead, for one thing, we don't need to eat meat. We don't need it. Because we can definitely get sustenance from plants. But then I think that that's just eating a live thing also. But I don't know. It's difficult. I might come back to it later, but it's something I have I have to think about it more because, for one, it's a very difficult it's a difficult question because it's difficult to think about it with respect to morality. But I think that at the conclusion to thinking of it as immoral to consume it is not right, because maybe that's how a few people feel, but that's, I don't know. I think that it's immoral to cause pain. I think it's immoral to hurt animals. And it is definitely easy to eat an animal without causing it pain. I think that's all that matters. But this is up to further discussion. If you have any things to say, please say so below.